Darn, we'll have to get Krista to repeat it all.
Well, that was just for the city. We actually have a partnership piece of it I could cover and a county piece I could cover, but is there anyone on from the organization called Celebrate America?
Yes, I am.
If you would say,
and I also am, Lisa.
Oh, I'd love to hear about how you're handling it. Let's spend a little less time on what your potential projects are, because we can get to that later in the agenda. But tell us a little bit about how you're structuring and serving the larger county. That would be great.
Well, we began with a brainstorming meeting for a subcommittee of Celebrating America. That's the Carroll County's local organization for historic sites. And in that meeting, we identified the themes that we want to dig into, which largely adhere to those from AASLH, but also with some guidance from the Museum of the American Revolution's questions that they use to structure their exhibits for anybody who's been to the Museum of the American Revolution in Philadelphia. The next step that we're taking is the content, where the tires meet the road. Now that we have a general guideline of how we want to approach this, where each site will ask questions tied in with each program, broad questions without a yes or no answer, things like what makes a revolution and can a revolution be successful, things like that. But we're also needing to make it specific to our story. So the next step that we're taking is compiling information on Carroll County during the American Revolution and the repercussions of that through the rest of Carroll County history. And once we have those ideas, then we can start pitching programs to various sites and interconnecting them. So we're very much at the brainstorming stage right now, but using the themes identified by AASLH and the Museum of the American Revolution to help guide us.
And would I be accurate that that Celebrate America is the entity that's been given the responsibility for that countywide coordination in Carroll?
I think
is there something official there?
Not so much official, but we're sort of chosen to take it on ourselves. There was no assignment for it.
Okay, it sounds a little bit like what the Heritage Area is doing. Yes, Kristen.
Yeah, it's a loose consortium of historical and other organizations that voluntarily meet monthly, and they promote each other. They promote tourism and history, and it's got a pretty long history. You know, at least 5 years of working together for common goals like National History Day and History Expo. And, you know, everybody brings what they can to the table, and it's generally supported, generally supported by the county, partially through the leadership of the public library and also the Historical Society. And then, Kyle, any idea how many partners we have? I used to call at least a dozen people.
I think that was actually a topic at our last meeting where, yeah, at least a dozen is a good way to put it. I think it was the last meeting and the meeting before where we were trying to sort through how many were reliably attending. It's quite a few, but I don't have the exact number.
All right. So before I do want to give another county or municipality or organization a chance, but I do. Lisa also had chimed in. Did you want to add anything to this, Lisa, before we move on?
Not really. And I didn't get to go to the first meeting, but I just wanted to say, basically the way we work. One example was recently we had teachers, social studies teachers from the county, go on like a field trip, a full week of visiting all of the museums and groups that were willing to bring them in and talk to how they could possibly create a lesson that would incorporate Carroll County history. So yeah, it was just really interesting because now they will get CPD credit and that they will have to do that. So that could even be something that could be done with the 250.
That sounds great. It sounds like it could be replicated and made especially robust for that 250th anniversary year and beyond. So I don't know the answer to this question, but is there, say, somebody from a municipality in Hagerstown, in Washington or Frederick County that would like to speak to where you are on deciding how how this is going to be taken on? I'm hearing radio silence, and that's okay. It's
I'll
not
speak
going to
up.
be okay next time. Yes, please. Hey.
Hi, my name is Caitlin from the town of Newmarket, and it's me and another guy, and we're still just talking about things. You know, we've really, it seems like the more we talk about, there are a lot of ideas, but we're just struggling with like, okay, how are we actually going to get this done? You know, in terms of money, but mostly in terms of manpower, because it feels like everybody is just stretched to the limits, and we're not really sure how to find those people out there that would be interested in pursuing this with us. So that's really where we are in the planning.
No, that is really a great thing to hear. So I would say this is for Caitlin and for all the rest of you who are also Caitlins, I'm sure, in your own communities. Take a look at that technical leaflet we shared. It gives you some options. You may hone in on an option for, you know, how do you create that body that's going to help guide you, and you'll tailor it to what works in your community. But that's a good place to start, as is taking some lessons from our partners in Westminster and across Carroll County who have actually seized on existing groups, and now they're using that as a springboard. So, and the other thing that we can do with these convenings is the more we meet, the more we know each other, the more we understand who our potential collaborators are, so you don't feel so alone in this. How about, I know we've got, yes.
Liz, can I just quickly chime in real quick? I'll try not to be too dominant here, but we're planning on putting out a number of letters to every resident in Westminster, because we have the water bill, and in the water bill we get free mailing, and we're going to be asking for people to help us, and we're going to have a dedicated email so that anybody who has information or historical documentation that they want to share can step forward and do that easily. And so we're looking at making this as open to the public as we can possibly accommodate within our bandwidth, and doing it on the city platform.
That's really awesome, and that is so consistent with everything that state, you know, national, and within our own communities that we've been talking about, wanting this to be this truly inclusive celebration and commemoration. So that's fantastic. Because we are limited by time, I am going to seize the moment now to introduce Michele Waxman Johnson, who is our executive director for the Maryland 250 Commission. And we were lucky enough that she has already paid us a visit a couple of times here in Frederick County, and some of you may have had a chance to meet her, but if you haven't yet, you'll meet her on the screen now. And Michele, I'm just going to turn it over to you to share what you'd like us to know now. And I know we're keen to understand better how our grassroots efforts can intersect with Maryland 250.
Thank you so much, Liz. And I am so happy to be here. I want you to know I'm new. Tomorrow is my 3-month anniversary in this position. What is not new to me, though, is the heart of the Civil War heritage area. We lived in Mount Airy for 21 years. I worked in Frederick as executive director of Leadership Frederick for 11 years. And Newmarket, we spent our honeymoon night in Newmarket a really long time ago. So this is an area that is deep in my heart, though I now live on the Eastern Shore. Just want to tell you a little bit about what is happening behind the scenes. I am based in the Department of Planning, and I report to Secretary Rebecca Flora and Elizabeth Hughes, who is our State Historic Preservation Officer, who some or most of you probably know. She is my thought partner. And I want to introduce my intern, Erin, who is here with us today, and Erin has 1 semester to go at the University of Maryland. Liz, I am so excited that you are hosting this, and I'm sorry I wasn't with you in January, but I wasn't even aware that this was the job in the administration where I was going to land in January. So what I want to tell you is, and like some of you have already said, Maryland 250, the semi-quincentennial, is an opportunity for Maryland to tell our story, and it is about a lot more than fireworks and parades. Some of us, not all, remember the bicentennial. We're here for the bicentennial, but we have so many more opportunities to tell our story than we had in the bicentennial, and things are going to be really, really different this time around. This is an opportunity for the state of Maryland to reflect and, think about our very, very complex history and our struggle for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, for the ongoing evolution of American democracy and our impact on the nation's past, present, and future. It's a new administration. It's a new day and a new vision for Maryland 250. As some of you probably are aware, in 2021, there was an executive order and a state commission was formed. But with the new administration, 2 weeks ago, on July 3rd, a new executive order was issued. And I will drop a link to that new executive order in the chat when I'm done. The vision now is for an inclusive year-long statewide commemoration of our history. And there's 3 pillars, which I'll get to in a minute. I spend a lot of my time today building awareness, and we're all aware that the semi-quincentennial is coming, and probably most of us on this call can say that word. But most people who I talk to, they're so impressed that I can say that word. And, I didn't know that word either, but I got the job and I had to know how to say this word. So now I do. But awareness is a huge part of what we're doing. And, we have no brand, right? We have no website. We have no social media for Maryland 250. But that is all about to change. And we have hired a web firm, and they're going to start with a logo, which I hope to have by early fall, and a website, which I hope to have by the end of the year. And then the social media will follow. We don't have, we learned yesterday, we're sort of in the middle of the pack when it comes to all the states. And I was surprised because some states started in 2016 when the federal bill became law, asking states to form 250 commissions. So, I feel the sense of urgency, and I want you to know I am the only, until Erin joined me, I was the only employee in the state of Maryland government who was working on this. And thank goodness now I have Erin, so I have a partner, which is awesome. Partnerships are going to be huge. And, so Erin and I are concentrating quite a bit on finding partners all around the state who want to do something, who already do something. And there's so many existing events. And a few months ago, Memorial Day weekend, I wound up at the Chestertown Tea Party. Have any of you ever been to that? And I'm sure there you go, Kyle. So I'm sure you all love history, which is why you're here today. And, there are events like this all around the state. And we are looking for these events because we want to be your partners. We want to co-brand, for Maryland 250 and whatever organization exists. I went to a reenactment of the Frederick Douglass speech about what the 4th of July means to the slave. And it was on the steps of the courthouse in Easton, I think that was just last weekend. And it was amazing. And so anyway, we are on a search. Erin and I are on a search to find similar events of historical nature all around the state. And we need partners. digital and traditional opportunities, both. Really, the vision is very, very different than 50 years ago. And I was here, but I don't remember a lot. It's going to be about a lot more than the Revolutionary War, what happened that led to the Revolutionary War, what happened during the war, and what has happened since. And maybe we'll even look at the future a little bit. I mean, I think it's just a great opportunity to look in the mirror and maybe include the future. People, places, traditions, and the 3 pillars. I want to talk to you about that. Our complex history, and this is all in the executive order. This is all laid out in the new executive order. Our complex history, service, and civics. So on the commission, the commission itself, there were not a lot of changes in the new executive order. But what did change is the addition of 3 new seats, one for the lieutenant governor who is going to serve on this commission, one for the new Secretary of Service and Civic Innovation. And Maryland is the first state to have such a department. And this is a very important initiative of Governor Moore. And it's really, really exciting what we are going to have in this state. And then finally, the 3rd pillar is civics. I've heard some of you use the word legacy, and I spend a lot of time thinking about legacy. I started by thinking about public art, and now I've really expanded that into other things. And, I really, these 3 pillars, we need a legacy. And I think a lot about voting. And I hope everyone here today, I hope we're all voters, but so many people are not. And so many people, go to vote and they don't realize, they just voted in the primary, but there's a general election coming up. And so, wouldn't it be amazing to not only have a legacy that you can see, but beyond that, to have a legacy of a real shift in people and people's habits to make people better, better citizens. And so anyway, so we'll see how that goes. The commission cannot yet meet because even though the executive order was signed, it is now sitting in the appointments office. And so we hope to, we hope that I was hoping this summer we could gather the commission. Now I'm hoping for fall. But anyway, we hope it will be soon enough. And like Liz, my ask for you is to, if you don't have a commission or a committee or a group who cares about this in your community, please start one. And Caitlin in Newmarket, I want to talk to you. And I'm going to help any of you who need help. And we'll see what that looks like, but I want to work with our partners and friends all around the state. And I want Maryland to have a great semi-quincentennial year. And so anyway, I'm here and I'm going to give you my contact information. And we also have a form. We have a temporary website, which is, it's not, I hesitate to even call it a website because it's just 2 sentences, my contact information, and a link to this form where we are looking for ideas, suggestions, and connections. So I'm going to post that also. Liz, anything else?
I think that is wonderful. Thank you so much. So we know right now we can send her, Michele, our ideas, our suggestions. She has made that offer to be available to us. So Caitlin and all the other Caitlins out there in the Zoom, take advantage of it. Thank you very much for joining us today, Michele, and welcome, Erin. Look forward to meeting your intern as well. So Emily, if you would move us to the slides, we'll take a look at those real quick. All right, so I am not going to spend a whole lot of time on these slides. If you were with us at the summit in January, you got a physical copy of the field guide that you see on the screen here. And in fact, I think there's some dynamic bullet points that come up there. You can just scroll through them, Emily. The what you see are some of the impetus here for the American Association for State and Local History having created this field guide. The field guide identifies several themes, and I'm not going to go through them all, but we're going to quickly look at them. And in case there is somebody out here today that didn't receive a copy of this, either digitally or as a hard copy, we will send it out in the follow-up to this meeting, so you've got it. But if you would just start moving through the slides, please, Emily. So here, the first theme, unfinished revolutions. A couple of that idea of the concept of what makes a revolution is something I've already heard you all mention today. And a couple of bullet points under this that are just fuel for igniting your thought. This is a document that people all over the country are using. You can figure out how do the things you want to do align with this theme. Let's keep going. Power of place. This is one we spent time on, both power of place and unfinished revolutions at our last summit. I think power of place has a lot of that legacy potential in it. How, what are the and asking ourselves, as the last bullet point here says, what are the places that are typically preserved for their historic value? What other kinds of stories can be told there? And then the thing that they don't say, what are the places that we need to start thinking about preserving that haven't been conventionally preserved in the past? Let's go to the next one. We the people, again, who and what are the diverse people that make up this country and that have influenced events from the American Revolution over time. Again, that's part of that being inclusive and making sure that our commemorations have a place for every Marylander, every American, every visitor to our sites to find something that reflects their story. Let's keep going. Again, the American experiment. This is very, can be considered very close to the question of unfinished revolution. I would say too, this just reminds me that when you all are looking at establishing your local commissions or however that structure will take place, when you read that document, the technical leaflet, you will see that many, many places, especially on the East Coast, are establishing commissions that are charged to carry through until 2033, till the date of the Constitution. I know our state commission, I think you can nod, I think our state commission is only commissioned through 2027, but it is worth your considering. We get this ball rolling, perhaps you do want to carry through to the anniversary of the Constitution as well. And let's keep going as one more. And then how we do history. And this is really, especially for those of you who are tied to a history organization. How are you collecting history? How are you preserving history? Yep, thank you. Michelle reminds us that, yeah, Maryland isn't too far from its 400th anniversary year as well. So we should be thinking about that as well. So these are the themes that the AASLH has established for us. And I think we can go back to just looking at our faces, Emily. We are truly a diverse collection of jurisdictions, of organizations, and our audiences are also diverse, as well as those that we want to become our audiences, that we want to pull in. And our approaches to these recommended themes that we've seen, or the buckets that Michelle just described, the complex history, service, physics, or if you get into our strategic plan, which I hope you will, we'll send you that link as well. We have 6 themes for the heart of the Civil War heritage area. These can provide a unifying, overarching framework for what takes place at that grassroots level throughout our 3 counties. So as you hone in on your projects, on your programs, those bullets, you saw the bullets under each of those themes in the slides, you might come up with your own unique bullets that, that tie to your specific missions, to your desired outcomes for your programs. But conversations like we're having today can help us begin to take what's happening. And I think this really is very much what Kyle was describing with Celebrate America. We're going to weave it all together so that we're going to have that coverlet that's full of different colors and different patterns, but it will also work as a whole. And that's, I think that's the role that your heritage area can help you with. What I want to do now is take a few minutes to build on some of those ideas that we've already heard about are percolating, and to think back to the summit for those of you who were there. We did send out, and this was a very sort of rough collection of notes from the summit, from our small group conversations. But that was a reminder of some of the things that we were brainstorming then, and it was very high level concept. We were not truly planning at that point. We were just sort of bouncing around ideas. But I'd like to talk about, you know, thinking back on the summit, what are those ideas that 6 months later that feel a little sticky, like maybe we can take it to another level. But also, while we're at it, let's think about legacy. How what is that concept of legacy for us? What are those potential projects that might survive to the next generation? And as Michele pointed out, those might be concrete, tangible things. They might be a legacy of a different nature. And I would venture to say that people like Kristen and myself, and I know Dennis Fry is out there, and others of you of a certain age, we might be doing the work we do now, partly because 50 years ago, the bicentennial was a bit of an inspiration for us. And maybe part of what we're doing is we're inspiring those who will carry stewardship further in, and which is, you know, a big concern. And you know what? They're probably not going to look like me or Kristen or Dennis. How are we making sure that that the people who are going to be our population in the future care about these places to keep them going? But I'm going to mention 2 other things that I can think of from the bicentennial year that also I would call a legacy project. There are more of them. One, the Hessian Barracks, or also the Fredericktown Barracks in Frederick. So this was, if you're not familiar with it, it was, I believe, the very first state commissioned public building. The contract on that went out in 1777. It's a place that housed British and German prisoners during the Revolutionary War. By the time of the Civil War, it was General Hospital number 1. By 1868, it was the very first Maryland School for the Deaf, a whole nother kind of interesting history, and one with a lot of inclusive possibility there. And there's a whole lot more to that story. In 1776, I'm not aware of it being open to the public as a visitor serving place prior to that, but in 1976, it was developed with exhibits. There was a preservation effort there. It was actively open as a museum, and especially for certain events. And I know because I helped make that happen in 1976, and it has some serious preservation needs, and we're really proud that it was just awarded an NPS semi-quincentennial grant to help with those preservation needs. The state of the building has made it less accessible to the public. One of the factors making it less accessible, it can there's an opportunity to return to that, which was a legacy project. It served us well. I was part of it 50 years ago. My children have been able to enjoy it, and maybe my grandchildren are going to be able to enjoy it. That's a legacy. And it happens to be a specifically Web 4 legacy, but with ripples throughout history of importance. I think the Centennial Park that Kristen mentioned is another example where in the centennial year, this park was established, and there may be maybe an opportunity to enhance that park in some way with a legacy aspect in Westminster. So, so I want to throw open, just throw this open to hearing from you, and maybe thinking back, what do you recall? What, you know, maybe if you don't have to refer to your notes, that means it was really sticky. What are you all working on that may have surfaced from that meeting 6 months ago, or you just have landed on since then? And I didn't see this, so I need somebody brave to step up.
Can I just toss in?
Sure.
It's Kristen, and I'm actually harkening back to that Centennial Park. It's called Belgrove Square. It was given to us by a prominent citizen at the 100th year. For the 200th year, the DAR stepped in and put a monument in for the bicentennial. And I happen to be part of the local DAR chapter for the William Winchester group, and they have now assigned someone to be the 250th coordinator. We don't want to forget our private partners, people who are non-governmental, who are just slugging it out sort of on their own. And the women will be doing that. I don't really expect them to do a huge flourish, because they're a very, very small chapter, and this is really not the kind of thing in their wheelhouse, but I really hope that I can help them partner. Another small partnership that is easy to forget about is local cemeteries. So I'm on the Westminster Cemetery board, and we just got a grant, and part of that grant for the MHAA is celebrating the 250th. We built that in, and we hope to be able to pull out of our database all the folks who were alive during the 250th, and then we actually have a patriot or two that we can highlight as part of the tourism new amenity for the county of Westminster. So there are folks out there who you might not think about who have a 250th slant, and private partnerships, I think, are a good place to encourage folks.
Excellent. And I do, and Michelle's pointing out that the DAR has a state committee established, and I think there are some other DAR chapters represented here. Are there any other DAR contributions for the conversation before we leave? That's okay. But yes, Rebecca Conrad says the Conococheague chapter will be unveiling a Revolutionary War Patriot marker at Kiwanis Park. Excellent. Already set for April 19th, 2024. That's a wonderful thing too. You are becoming visitor ready. By 2026, you're not developing the project, you've got it in place and it's been tested, and you know how to deliver that to the visiting public. So that's fantastic.
Liz,
Okay.
could I say a few things?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot about the Sons. Sorry about that.
Yes. We also, I'm with the Sons of the American Revolution, the Frederick County chapter, Sergeant Lawrence Everhart. We are part of the SAR, also has a state committee, which is working on statewide events. We are working on a number of local events, some in conjunction with the DAR chapter, the two DAR chapters in Frederick County. We've started both organizations have a mandate for this to be a 10-year event, from 2023 Boston Tea Party anniversary up through the Treaty of Paris, in which we would be celebrating in 2033, and then obviously beyond that into the Constitution as well. I'm hoping, and that we will be doing that. We've started a speaker series, an America 250 speaker series, which is being held at Frederick Community College. 3 speakers this year, and then 4 each year afterwards. We've done the first one with Chris Haw in May. We're doing one Wednesday night with Travis Shaw, who was at the January meeting, and then a third one in September on African Americans and Native Americans in the American Revolution. We are working with the Carroll County, the Westminster chapter of SAR, on a project to mark Anthony Wayne's march through Maryland, which was through Carroll and Frederick counties in May and June of 1781, on his way to meet up with Lafayette, which was a prelude to Yorktown. So that will be an ongoing project. We are working with our chapter, with the DAR chapters around the muster of the rifle companies. As you all know, or many of you, the Continental Congress authorized 10 rifle companies from the frontier states in June of 1775. Maryland's 2 companies were raised in Frederick County as it was then, which was all of Western Maryland. We will be commemorating that event on June 21st, 2025, which is the exact 250th anniversary of the muster of the rifle companies. That will be at the site of the old county courthouse, now City Hall in Frederick. And we expect that, we're hoping that to be a big event with lots of participation, including you all. And also, as cemeteries were mentioned, we are trying to step up our grave marking program of recognizing Revolutionary War patriots. We project 11 or 12 grave markings. We hope by the end of this year, additional ones, and we'll be doing that throughout too, so that the Revolutionary War patriots, I mean, we'd like by the end of this time period to recognize all of them, but that may be impossible because they're Frederick County, at least by SAR registration, has more Revolutionary War patriots buried in Frederick County than any other county in Maryland. So with that plug, I'll hand it over to you again.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You made me think of a couple of things. One, you mentioned Travis, who joined us at the 250th Summit and was sort of sitting in as a representative of Loudoun County, Virginia, right, our neighbor. And he reminded us that it was last summer that they established not only a steering committee, but a number of active subcommittees. They've been at it for a while at our neighboring county in Virginia. I also want to mention several of you, and you were full of wonderful planned programs. When we follow up to this, I'll ask Emily to include the link so that you can share your event, your upcoming events on our calendar. We need to receive that online through an online submission, and then we can populate our online calendar, and that's often where we draw any social media posting that we're doing from. So we would, we want to help you engage our communities, and really great things happening with the SAR. Thank you for chiming in there.
Great, thank you.
And I also note that so cemeteries, clearly a sticky idea that did come up, both African-American cemeteries and just cemeteries in general, as places where preservation is needed. There's clearly a legacy potential in preserving and doing more with interpreting the cemeteries. And if you've been watching the Maryland Road Trips online magazine, you see we recently sponsored a whole article about cemetery tourism. Look it up if you haven't seen it yet, or we'll send that to you in a link as well. Any other sticky ideas, either from before or new ones that have percolated up within your communities? We've heard a bit from Frederick and a bit from Carroll. Washington's kind of silent out there. What's happening in Washington County that we need to know about? And we're talking about that whole span, 250 plus years of American history. This is the story that continues to evolve.
Liz, it's Dan. Is anybody else from Washington County on the call?
There are a few.
I'm on here.
Rebecca, Catherine Mahey, Dennis Fry. There are a few people out there.
Good. Right now, the CVB is actively supporting 2 cemetery restoration projects We're supporting them financially. We add those to our inventory of relevant African American heritage sites. Working on accessibility to them. One is completely enclosed by a housing development where there's no public access. We're correcting that. We contribute financially to that. And we did get a letter from the DAR to participate in a commemorative marker in Sharpsburg. And they've asked us for a financial contribution, which we'll be more than willing to make. As a CVB, I don't see the role for us to take the lead here. We don't own any real estate. We don't manage a property. I don't have a public works department or I can't close a road. I just want to support any other effort that comes our way. I'm glad DAR wrote, here years in advance. That gives the opportunity to contribute to even more projects over, a series of 3 fiscal years. So we stand ready to participate, but unlikely to take the lead because we're such a small organization and we really don't control a lot of resources out of buying advertising.
That's fantastic, Dan. And actually, the CVB is a major supporter of the Heart of the Civil War. So in that, you're helping us do the kind of thing we're doing now, and we appreciate that. I have heard a number of other ideas out there that I know I've thought to myself that would make a great 250th anniversary legacy project. I suspect that many of them are not at the point where they're ready to be voiced in a public forum yet. So the good news is I really am aware of a lot of exciting things that may be underway, and maybe some of those things haven't been thought of as potentially branding them as a 250th project. So we'll keep these conversations going, and as people are in a position to share, that's a great thing. And again, part of this conversation allows us to figure out who's doing similar work, where do we have overlap, where can we be more efficient working together, and thus also raise our visibility and perhaps be even more economically efficient. So these are all things that I hope that as a heritage area we're able to help you all do. Emily, let's go to that next slide. All right, so one of the things that we are committed to doing as we can is sharing learning opportunities specifically related to the 250th. And one is actually coming up tomorrow, which may seem fast. On the other hand, while this is still fresh on our minds, it might be really good timing. This did go out to a number of people, and we can send you the link again. You'll get it in follow-up. But tomorrow, whether you sign up and do this webinar on your own at home or within your own offices, that's fine, but you're also invited to join us here where we have our offices in Frederick on South Market Street to view it as a bit of a webinar party. This is the third in a package series from the American Association of State and Local History that was dedicated to interpreting the 250th. So, and you can access the recorded versions online through the AASLH. Would let us know if you need help getting access to those things. But please think about coming and joining us here at our offices tomorrow. This is going to be an interesting one because they're actually going to invite participants to bring their ideas, and there's going to be a little workshopping available. So especially you Carroll County folks, whether you're doing it with us or doing it at home, you got some ideas that this might be the perfect timing to put it in front of a broader range of colleagues and see, how that workshopping plays out. So we're going to watch this webinar together here at our offices, and then we'll take another bit of time, maybe another 30 minutes or so, for any any conversation we want to have and follow up. We'll have a facilitated discussion. It could be about the workshop itself or anything lingering from today's conversation that you'd like to talk about. And then there actually is another one that we've just learned about that we're going to host as well, same format. And we'll send this information out. It's on, the title of this one is The Unfinished Revolution, Place, Environment, and Social Justice in the 250th. So again, so much when we talk about power of place, we're not just talking about the built environment, our natural resources and our historic resources, you really can't separate one from the other. And so this will be a great opportunity to refine some thoughts along those lines. Emily, let's move on to the next slide, please. So I do want, this is just in the realm of a few announcements. The America 250, we heard from the executive director of that group at the summit. They have just launched their initiative called America's Invitation, One Nation, Many Stories. I don't have a lot of information on this. I know it's out there, and it is an invitation to share stories in a digital format. So I suggest that you go to that, check it out, and maybe in our next conversation, we'll understand better how we can make this work for us here in our heritage area, but I wanted to make sure you knew about it. I also want to let you know that we do envision a 3-year process of continuing to convene. You all bring others into the fold, catalyze planning. This will depend a little bit on funding that's available to us to do this, but we are anticipating a November speaker, and we've got a really, really great speaker planned for November 1st. Mark your calendars. This will be in Frederick of this year. And I can't say anything more yet. We'll probably do remote convening in January. January is a little bit of a tricky time to plan an in-person, so we'll probably do a big remote convening in January. By May, Historic Preservation Month, we'll pull together as an in-person or a hybrid gathering, because there is so much to be gained when we're really face-to-face. And I'm going to let Emily say something about mini grants.
All right, so the mini grant round is now open. We are going to be doing we've bumped the schedule forward. So mini grant applications, usually they're due around Halloween, if you're familiar with previous rounds. This year, and I think this year only, they're going to be due by September 6th at 5 p.m. And so we're hosting 2 information sessions to learn more about mini grants. There's going to be an online information session on August 3rd at 1 p.m. When I send out the PowerPoint and also the links, there will be a link to register on Eventbrite for that. And then we're also going to have an in-person information session here at our offices at Federated Charities in downtown Frederick on August 8th at 10:30 a.m. And you can register for that as well. Mini grants, they fund non-capital projects, and so things that are not bricks and mortar, and it also cannot be marketing, but you can put marketing in your match. And so things like exhibits, things like interpretation, things like waysides, can all be funded by mini grants, and they're matching grants up to $5,000 with an unlimited amount of in-kind value you can use to match, which includes things like volunteer time. If you have a project in mind, or maybe a few different projects, you're not sure which one would be best, I would love to chat with you about your potential application. And so feel free to get in touch with me and shoot me an email. We can talk more about possible mini grant projects. Again, that's going to be due by September 6th. And then
thank you, Emily. So we are at time here. I do want to mention, I already gave a congratulations out to the Hessian Barracks and Maryland School for the Deaf for their MPS semi-quincentennial grant. I do want to note that in the first round of those grants, Catoctin Furnace Historical Society secured 2 major grants from that program as well to help with structures up in Thurmont. Those grants were specifically for state-owned buildings, and we're really proud that our important Rev War sites in our heritage area, at least some of them, there's still a couple out there, have been able to garner those grants. we are at time, so I will certainly understand should people need to drop off. But I'd also like to answer questions, so we'll stick around a little bit longer for anybody who has a question or something that they'd like to share. In the meantime, next steps, work on forming those commissions or those steering committees, fine tune where you think you're going to be focusing your planning efforts, because those are the things we're going to want to hear about in January when we have our next convening. It will be remote, and we will, and at that point, we should know better how to intersect more fluidly with Maryland 250 and put together means to share all this information efficiently with you all. So any questions? I also want to say thank you very much, Michele, for joining us today. We're very excited to have you with us, and thank you all for coming, and just really looking forward to all the time that we're going to be spending on this topic for the next few years. We just see a lot of goodbyes. So no questions. Feel free to follow up with questions by email, and think about joining us tomorrow, either here or in your own places.